Today's daf is daf days. We're actually up to the Mishnah. We're up to the Mishnah. This is Wednesday's Gemara. So the Mishnah in the middle of the page. We're continuing to talk about the reverence one should have to a king, and generally how a king should behave themselves. Now we're going to learn about the reverence that we have to have towards a king. Mishnah. Because the pasuk says, "Soim tasim alecha melech," you have to place upon you a king, and you have to have respect and submission to the king. Says the Mishnah, "Ein reichvin al susi, not ride on his horse. Ve'ein yoishvin al kisa, nor can you sit on his stool. Ve'ein mishtamshe b'shabita, nor can you use his staff or his scepter." But this is really, others say it's a crown. This is really merely a metaphor, or not a metaphor, an example for everything that belongs to the king. You cannot use. The matter of fact will say you cannot even use the king's wife. Before the Mishnah that you cannot, the wife of a king cannot marry anyone else. You're not allowed to look at a king or observe a king while he's taking a haircut. It doesn't say why not. Somehow it's demeaning. Perhaps it's demeaning because you see part of his head shaved and part of it isn't shaved. And at that time, is not a very pretty appearance. Maybe that's why. Maybe if they wore yarmulke those days, they took the yarmulke off. Or maybe just seeing any mundane activity of a king, if it doesn't bring out his authority and his position, perhaps someone shouldn't be observing it because it's a private citizen. He can do things that we shouldn't be observing or witnessing too. But like Yeshua, Adam know when he's naked, when he's in the bathhouse, and never says same person that you should respect him and you should fear him. Says the Gemara, Avishag, we'll see, was David Melech was ill. David Melech was ill. His body needed some warmth, so they brought in this woman called Avishag, as we'll see in a minute. And that woman, Avishag, after David Melech passed away, was not permitted to marry anyone except another king, like Shlomo. Muteres l'Shlomo was permitted to Shlomo, v'asuda la'Adonio, and was forbidden to Adonio. Adonio wanted her, and Shlomo Melech said that's considered Moed Malchus, because it's as if you're saying that you are the king. Somehow or another, you think by marrying Avishag, who was close to David Melech, you can then claim the kingdom. So therefore, he said, you should put Adonio to death. So Adonio was an ordinary prince. We lived before. A prince is just a hedyot. Therefore, he had no right to marry. Shlomo did. The Melech, or Shlomo, the Muteres of Shlomo, why is permitted Shlomo the Melech? He was a king. And the king can use the sharbit, the scepter of a previous king. But Adonio was a hedyot, ordinary person. Avishag Mayi, who is this Avishag? It says in Pasuk, Melech David. And David HaMelech Zaken Baba Yami was getting old, and he was not well, and he couldn't warm himself. So his avodim his servant suggested, why don't you look for a young virgin girl, a psula, and she should be there to warm you up. It says, they searched the land for some pretty girl. She was extremely pretty. Vatila Melech Soikenes, and she was there to warm up the king. Vatashoseyu, and she served Umbra. So she said to him, you know what? Ni Nasbet. Right now I'm a Pnuya, I'm single, but let's get married. Amalei said to her, Asiditli, you are forbidden to me. Now, why was she forbidden to him? Because he already married 18 wives. Now, interesting that we discussed last time. There's an argument whether Palakshim are considered in the number of the 18 wives. If you hold Palakshim are not in the number, then why didn't you just marry as a Pelegish? On the other hand, if you follow the opinion of the Rambam that says that a Pelegish is no Kedushin and there's no Ksuba, nothing at all, there's not much of a marriage. And there's Machlekes, the Rambam, the Ravid, and the Shulchan brings both opinions whether a person is allowed to marry a Pelegish generally. So maybe David HaMelech was of the opinion that either a Pelegish is part of the 18, or a Pelegish is not considered married anyway, which is a difference, or it's forbidden to have a Pelegish. So still there's an Easter involved. Amrle, she said she didn't believe him. David was sick and he was old and frail. He said, David, no, you're finding excuses. Just like Choshe Leganu, for Ganath doesn't have where to steal. He walks around saying, oh, I'm an honest person. But the truth of the matter is he's just as cunning as before, but he just has nowhere to steal from, no one to rob. So they say, the reason why you're not marrying is because you can't. You're not able to. Amalahu, David wants to prove her wrong. He said, call my wife Basheva, Shlomo's mother. See what it says, it says that the king brought Basheva into the room. She came into the room. And the king the pasuk actually says, the king was very, very old. And he brought her into the room, and I want to read about but they had 13 times intimate relations to prove to Avishag that he was not frail. Why David Melech felt the need to prove to Avishag is not clear, but maybe he wanted her to be enthusiastic about what she's doing, and not constantly have reservations because maybe it's wrong. I should have married. He wanted to prove to her that no, I'm not allowed to marry you, and therefore we have no choice. And David was sick, and therefore you're allowed to. How do we know 13 times? How do we know 13 times? So we are told because it says 13 times. Rashi says 13 words are written in that pasuk. Now, there's in Shulchan in the Bar Hativ, it brings in the portion the only way you can get 13 words out of this pasuk is if Bas Sheva, the name Bas Sheva is one word. Because there's an argument whether Bas Sheva is two words, Bas Sheva, or is it one word, Bas Sheva. The fact that we count this pasuk as 13, even though there are 14 words in this pasuk, must be that Bas Sheva is one word. Boy, they come and see Kama Kosher Gator how difficult it was to divorce. They suspended the prohibition of being alone with a single woman. She couldn't hide it. The problem was there was 18 women. Divorce one of your wives, and because at the moment you were not really, I guess, capable of having relations with all your wives, and marry her. Why didn't they do that? So it shows you how difficult it is to divorce. Even though. No, even let's say what do we kamakosha? We do have the very last mission to get to the big machlekes. If you divorce a wife, you need a reason, or even like Rabbi Kiva says that you've motza acher is no mimena. But maybe according to all three of them, here it was different. You didn't find an error in any of your wives. You didn't find them doing any wrongdoing. You didn't burn your food. And nor is it because you found somebody prettier. It's because you needed her out of necessity. So then you had no excuse to divorce her, just for the sake of it. And therefore, he was not allowed to. And so what? But you have the sin of yichud. Contrary to that, but must be because divorce is painful when there's no need to, that we decided better to suspend the law of yichud than to force him to divorce his wife. There is a whole talk in the Rishonim whether a king can even divorce his wife, because the pasuk says that you divorce your wife and she marries another person. But we learned before in the Mishnah that a king's wife, nobody's allowed to marry a king's wife. And there's an argument if a king can marry a king's wife. If nobody's allowed to marry a king's wife, maybe you can't give divorce in the first place, because the Torah clearly says, and that from there she goes on and moves elsewhere. But if she can move elsewhere, maybe you cannot give a divorce in the first place. Others say that a king doesn't give a divorce to his wife because then she'll be in aguna the rest of her life, because she can't marry anybody else. You can no longer live with her own husband. So therefore, it's wrong to give a get in that particular case. But anyway, Amar Ablezer, now the Gemara is going to prove how difficult it is. Amar Ablezer, showing anybody divorces his first wife, I feel him mizbeach, even the mizbeach cries, sheds tears. Now, why the Gemara says here first wife? He had 18 wives, so don't divorce your first wife. Divorce your second wife, your third wife, your fourth wife. We already learned that Chevron had 6 wives, so divorce one of the ones that you got near Shalim. So obviously, first wife doesn't mean the very first wife. It means that, I guess, all the wives that you have that you lived with for a while, for a long time. So it appears. Shenema, even the Mizbeach cries. I know the Mizbeach cries, sheds tears. In other words, if the Mizbeach sheds tears, it shows you how difficult it is. That it's not that you're impacting not only yourself, but you're impacting others. And even Shenema, it says in Pasuk, this is what you should do. Kasais dima, that your tears will cover as Mizbeach Hashem, the Mizbeach Hashem, bechiva noka, with crying and sighing. And the Mizbeach will no longer turn to your carbon, and take those willing things from your hand. So therefore we see from here that what? That tears shoving Mizbeach. And we see when it says, you should say, now what exactly is causing Mizbeach to cry? The next passage says, you should say, Ama, and what is this all about? Hashem because Hashem testified, between you and the wife of your youth. So we're talking about the earlier wife. You betrayed her. She was your friend, and the wife of your covenant, of your bond. So therefore, we see Mizbeach Christ. I find perplexing because the Mashal says over here, and I say all the Mepharshim, why is the Mizbeach crying? Because the Mizbeach now is being denied the Kabbanis. A woman who gives birth to the children brings a Kabbanis, or a woman who's Ziva or menstruates has to bring, if it's out of the cycle, she has to bring Kabbanis, and now it will no longer happen because she's no longer married. If that's the pshat, then the Mizbech is not crying because you got divorced. The Mizbech is crying because it lost out on Kabbanis. It's a very selfish form of crying. From the Gemara, it seems the way the Gemara starts off saying here that the Mizbeach is crying for your divorce because the divorce itself is a sad thing, not because it affects the Mizbeach in a personal way. It seems that perhaps the pshat is no basis for this, but it says that the Mizbeach, it brings shalom to the world between us and Hashem by bringing karbanos and atoning for our sins. And the get is the opposite because there's lack of shalom. And therefore the Mizbeach cries, here I'm trying to perpetuate and promulgate shalom around the world. And an event happened that is contrary to the idea of shalom. So maybe that's what the Mizbeach cries about. Saying about other Mepharshim once actually, I can't remember who says this, that since it says that Adam came from the dirt or from the sand that was by the Mizbeach, so therefore the Mizbeach is involved in every person's life, and there's a divorce, the Mizbeach is hurt by it as well. Rabbi Yechon said, the wife of a person does not die. Why would she die young? Unless the husband did something wrong that they asked for money and he doesn't. But now the unfortunately say Ainla doesn't mean he doesn't have. If he doesn't have, he's destitute. What can he do? But he doesn't want to give. It says, if you don't have what to pay, why should you take away the bed underneath it? Why should you take your wife away? Why should be affected? What exactly we're talking about? This is Machlekes Rishonim, where we're talking about Gezela and you stole. If you stole, then the Ainlay, we don't care then. If the Ainlay means you don't have it all. In fact, that's why some people say it's talking about stealing, because not like Taisus, that's Rashi and elsewhere, because the Ainlay, if it means, let's say you promised tzedakah, you don't have, then why should he be punished? The Ainlay, you should say, the Ainlay The Ainlay sounds like he doesn't have, but we say we don't, no excuse. So Rashi therefore said, we're talking about Gezela, that he stole it, and who cares if you don't have it? You should never stole in the first place. And therefore there's a punishment involved. Mashay gives tzedakah, you said you'll give tzedakah at the time you thought you can give, and then the circumstances change, you can't give. So therefore, the Rashi says it's from Gezela. Teza learns tzedakah. It must be that the Ainlay doesn't mean that you don't have it all. It means you have, but you don't want to give. Maybe. Talking about it further, anybody who lost his wife, his first wife, that's it, the base of Migdash was destroyed in their very life. Remember, it says, Ben Adam, a person in the I'm taking from you as Mechammed Einech, I'm taking Machmed Einech, I'm taking you the desire of your eyes. But my Gefa in what do you call it? In a Magefa. Like Tisper, nobody is going to eulogize them, but like Tifka, nobody cry for them, but like Tavadim, Masech, won't be any tears. Actually, we just unfortunately saw it with COVID. How many great people, Sidim, Tzadikim, Shivas, Rabbanim passed away, and nobody even attended their funerals. Nobody was able to make a proper hesped. It was a plague and Magefa, and unfortunately, Steven says, "V'daber lama b'aker." I will speak to the people in the morning. Thomas Ishti and Be'erev. I spoke in the morning, and then in the evening, his wife passed away. Steven says, "He mechal as Mikdoshi." This is everything Yecheskel is telling, foreboding what's going to happen. Mechal Mikdoshi will desecrate my Semitic. Go oin uschem your pride. Mecham and Nechem, the desire of your eyes. So we see that what. And a wife, you'll take Beis Hamikdash away like I'll take your wife away. And that's Mechamed in Machmed Inecha, that's the desire of your eyes. So it's tantamount to your personal Beis Hamikdash being destroyed. Just like the Gemara says, anybody who lives a generation between was built as if you destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. So every generation is a potential Beis Hamikdash. Same thing here. Amar Rabbi Alexander. Any person that his wife died, b'yamav, the world is dark before his eyes. As it says a pasuk, the light became dark in his tent. And Yaakov, a tent is your family. The and the light there is diminished. Your footsteps are no longer strident. You're no longer enthusiastic, confident. It says that unfortunately through tzaras his footsteps became shorter. But Ur says that actually your ability to give advice and counsel is diminished. And then it says about Tashlechei Atzosei, that his advice has been taken away. The Mashal says very nicely that it says in Pasuk, Rabbi's machshava b'levi, you can come up with all kinds of ideas. But Hashem Yisrael, the advice of Hashem is what ultimately prevails. And every person who's married, Isha, you have a Yud and a K. So because you have a Yud and a K, so therefore the Hashem is there. But if Rahman al-Islam, heaven forbid, somebody loses their wife, they're missing out on Hashem, they're missing out on Sas Hashem. We know that many of the Rabbeim and other tzaddikim, when they lost their wives, they were unable to take yichidus, unable to give. They felt that they personally were diminished. Amar Rabba, Baba Chana, Amar Rabbi Yechon, Rabba, either Rabba, the grandson of Chana, or Rabba, the son of a person called Bar Chana. Different opinions are shown. Amar Rabbi Yechon said, it is difficult to pair a couple just like Kriyas Yamsuf. Remember it says, Elakim Moshe Yechidim Beisa, that Hashem puts Yechidim, Hashem places Yechidim and makes a house out of them. And it's just like Moitzi Asidim takes out, releases prisoners, Bikoisharos. So in Gemara say to the Bikoisharos, we say means at a time of the year when it wasn't hot, it wasn't cold, in spring. Here, Bikoisharos, we're going to touch, it says in the parentheses here, I'll take the Moitzi Asidim, El Kimoitzi, as if you're releasing prisoners. I'll take a Bechasharas, El Bechi Vesheres, that they're crying and singing. Crying, and when was that? From all the events that happened in Mitzrayim, when did we have one event that was crying and laughing at the same time? Crying for the Mitzrayim was Chris Yamsuf, because they all perished in the Yam, and the Eden was singing. And therefore, is Bechi Vesheres at the same time. And we're saying making a household, creating it just like Kriyas Yamsuf. And the famous question, the whole idea of Kriyas Yamsuf was splitting the sea. The whole idea of getting marriage is bringing two people together. What in the world are we doing here? How do we compare the two? What's similar to Kriyas Yamsuf? So my father-in-law, Liebman, the chief rabbi of Antwerp, used to say that Tanya talks about how Mitzrayim, the wind had to blow the entire time in order that the water should stand up, erect. Otherwise, the walls would have caved in. And the same thing with marriage. Doesn't matter how many years you're married, you have to continuously make sure that the walls stand erect and that the marriage works. Can never take it for granted. Says the Gemara, Aini, it's not so. A baskel comes out of heaven, rings out of heaven, and says, Bas Pliny Le Pliny, that the daughter of this person is going to marry this person. And as Taisus and Saita says, we don't care if the daughter is already born or it's going to be born later. We already make a declaration, Bas Pliny Le Pliny. In other words, it's already all been preordained. What's so difficult? What are we comparing to Kriyas Yamsuf? Says Malay Kasha, the first match is all preordained, Bas Pliny Le Pliny. Everything is all right. The second match is the one that's Kriyas Yamsuf. And the Gemara Saita says the second match is Lefi Maisav, depending what your worth is. Plus, we had Gemara Moikotin that people can change things. They can daven and say that I want my Basher to be somebody else. You can change the course of history. Second further, everything has a replacement. There's nobody's irreplaceable, as they say, except the first wife. She never says the Ashes Nemurim. It says in the pasuk the Ashes Neurim Kintimas, that the wife that you had when you were young, can you ever throw her away? In other words, nobody can ever replace her. Nobody will ever become the wife of you young again. Rabbi Yehuda once told his son, "Ein adam moitze kodesh ruach elam ishtay d'shayna." A person cannot find any real satisfaction only from the first wife that he has. The very first wife. Remember, it says, "He mekarcha baruch," that your origin should be blessed, and the smach, and you should be happy. Be'eshes nurecha, the wife that you had when you were young. So that brings you the most happiness. Amallah, he said to his father, "Good man, give me an example so I can learn what's considered a good wife." Amallah, your very mother. So like your very mother, she's perfect. Says the Gemara, and it's not so. We find in another occasion, and the Gemara, that's based on a Gimel, beautiful Gemara, all the virtues of treating your wife properly and having a wonderful relationship with Shalom Bayis. So there we have an occasion where Rabbi Yehuda said to Rabbi Yitzchak, the same Rabbi Yehuda said to Rabbi Yitzchak his son, Umaytze Ani, there's a pasuk that it says, Umaytze Vashloim Melech said, Umaytze Ani, man memovis. What I find even worse and more bitter than death is the Isha, is a woman, Asher he mitzoidim v'charamim, constantly tries to entrap you or trap other people into their net. Who are you referring to over here? Your very mother. How can it be that one minute he commends her, the next minute he compliments her, and the next minute he says something which is derogatory? So the Gemara, miskif tekife, she was very tough and very obdurate. But iburim ma'abra, but nevertheless, on the other hand, iburim ma'abra b'mila. But she was very, very quickly, she was able to forgive and move on. Before she have a hard time, why would Rabbi Yehuda tell his son some nasty comment about his mother? Unless he was trying to teach her that even if you have somebody that has a temper, don't right away walk out, because just like your mother had a temper, but we still have a very, very healthy relationship because she moves on. So I just learned how to deal with that. So the same thing here with you. Same thing with you. I once heard a very nice word I read. One pasuk says, "Ani mar memovis es isha." Another pasuk says, "Motza isha, motza teva." If you find a good wife, you found good blessings. So which one is it? So they say, can't remember who writes this, that Matzah Isha, if your life revolves around your wife and you respect her, that's the way it's supposed to be, is Matzah, well, great. But if a Matzah Ani, the first thing in your relationship is Ani, you're worried about what is it in for me? What am I getting out of this? If it's all about Ani, then Mara Mothers, then your relationship is doomed for failure, because you cannot have a relationship if you constantly think about yourself and not submitting yourself to your partner. Tell you one further. That a woman, before she's married, she's incomplete. She's not complete until she gets married, and that's when she has that. That's why I said Asian Nura, because she's no longer just a girl; she becomes a woman, and therefore, because you completed her, therefore you have this special bond that nobody can ever replace. So it says, that the one that you mated with, that your husband, is one who made you. When a man unfortunately passes away, the only one who really feels it, even though he has children and brother and siblings, the only one who really feels it more than anybody else is his wife. If a woman passes away, the one who feels it most is the husband. Now he's low. A man dies only for his wife. But it says, died Ish Nami, the husband of Nami. What do you have to say, the husband of Nami? On the other hand, a woman, when she passes away, the only one who really feels the husband. So it says, Yaakov said, pardon Mesa, Alai Rachel. Rachel passed away. So then it says Alai, as if to say, as Mashal points out, Alai means that from all the tzaras that I had, just like Rivka said, Alai Kilas Chabri. Alai refers to the tzaras. The one tzara that affected me more than anyone else, more even than Yosef being sold, more than anything else, more than having the trouble with Laban, and more than trouble with Esav, was that my wife Rachel passed away. And even though Yaakov had 3 other wives, Rachel was the one that he wanted to marry, and therefore affected the most. Since it ain't you shouldn't observe a king while he is taking a haircut. A king takes a haircut every single day. And by the way, this is a whole discussion in Shulchan Aruch. It talks about that on Thursday you should take a haircut because it grows back on Shabbos. When the Gemara, and we all ask him, because the Gemara right here says you take a haircut every day. Because if you're telling me that there's no reason that it takes 3 days for hair to grow back, then the king should take a haircut every 3 days. Why do you take it every day? So, so there's different ways of trying to understand Pshat, the Taz and others trying to explain what's going on over there in Shalom Hilchos Shabbos in the beginning. Kohen Gadol, Erev Shabbos, a Kohen Gadol should take a haircut every Friday. Why should a Kohen Gadol take a haircut every Friday? Because every Shabbos there's a new group coming in, and they should always see the Kohen Gadol looking the most well kept and well kept. Kohen Hedyed, an ordinary Kohen, is Echad L'Shleishiyim. An ordinary Kohen takes a haircut once a month. And many Yeshua Baruch do that as well, because the Rambam says that a Kohen, is not only referring to a kohen, but generally he's talking about that every person who steps up and devotes their life to ruchnis could be like a kohen, and a melech mistapev. Now we're going to go through each one. A melech mistapev, a king takes a every day. Now it says melech biyafyoi terzeneinech. You should always see the king looking most well preserved and well kept. So therefore, every day should take a haircut. Kohen Gadol me'erev Shabbos. Why? Since every week there's a new group of Kohen coming to work. Kohen Heged, once 30 days, as it says, it says a pasuk, lo yigalechu. It says that they should not shave the heads, but yet, on the other hand, but upara lo yishalech, nor should let the hair grow long, equal to pera. Now the question is, what exactly is pera? As we'll see in a minute. Kasam yechasnu, they should sort of cut the hair short, as to shave their head. Now, how do we know 30 days? So where else do we find the word pera? You shouldn't let the hair grow too long. Where else do you find the word pera? By a nazir. Uksiv hasan, as Mark said, the yalu learn out pera, ben nazir learn out from a nazir. Uksiv, here it says pera leishalech. Uksiv hasan by a nazir it says. It says Gadol Pera Sa'arish, that he should let his hair grow and not cut his hair. How long? The length of Pera. If Allah 30 days, I'm conscious you're 30 days as well. And how do we know? But now we learn. First in the Mishnah says, Tam Hashem, Nazir is 30 days. How do you know that by Nazir is 30 days? Kaddish year, the Gematrit plus now. The Kaddish year, the word year numerically equals 30 days. How long should you be Kaddish? How long should you not have a haircut? How long should the hair grow? 30 days. It's amazing. We're learning out a halacha in the Torah from a Gematria. So people dismiss Gematrias, but yet we see here clearly, and there are other them as well. If we learn out from a Gematria, how long a nazir should be. Let's say maybe that a kohen shouldn't have any hair at all. He said, so he said to him, when it says in the pasuk by a kohen, it says there you shouldn't shave the head, but nor should they let the hair grow. Maybe it doesn't mean you shouldn't, let the hair grow longer than 30 days. Maybe it means literally don't let your hair grow at all. So the Gemara Amalei Iksib, if Cheskel would have written there, don't let your hair grow, Kedamit, you're right. Has to Iksib Pera. He nominates the word Pera, which we know from the Nazir is a 30-day event. Pera lehevi shulucha leishalchu. You can have Pera, but don't let it grow further than that. I mean, it's only 30 days. If so the Gemara asks, and Teisha explains the Gemara's question was not that you shouldn't let the hair grow at all, but it means who said you're allowed to wait till 30 days? Maybe day number 29 before it reaches the stage of pera, you should take a haircut because there's a shavu pera. So we say no because it says pera, you should have pera, but no further than that. Not another hair growth more than beyond the 30 days, and that's why every 30 days take a haircut. So that's a question. So why not today? How come today we don't have the same thing? That kohenim also should take a haircut every 30 days. Answer the Gemara. So no, but even though there's no base of Mikdash, we should still answer it. Now, there's no base of Mikdash. What's the problem? So let's compare it to Yayin. So I'm going to answer my Yayin, just like wine. A kohen is not allowed to enter the base of Mikdash drinking wine, intoxicated, under the influence. And yet today, there's no problem with a kohen drinking wine. Same thing with haircut. In the times of the base of Mikdash, not today. There's man be only a time when the base of Mikdash, when you can enter, is forbidden. There's man the like there's man be, but there's no base of Mikdash, short is permitted. Is after Rosh thing comes to haircut. There's man be also the time of the base of Mikdash it is forbidden. But if it's not the time, be a shari. If it's not the time of be, no base of Mikdash is permitted. Freddy Gemara, is that so? The Yayin Shalai Bisman be a Shari in the time today, coin drinking wine. There is one opinion you can, but not the majority opinion. But Tanya, we learned the Rebbe counters the Chachamim. The Chachamim said the Chacham said follows that if a kohen knows which particular mishmer he's from, because we know there were 24 different weeks. Every week was another family, and within the family there was a number of Batiyavas, and every day was another base of. So if you know which is your mishmeres, which is your family, and then which is your base of the particular day of the week, then every 24 weeks, that day of the week, you're not allowed to drink any wine. even what happens? You only know the Mishmer is a week, but you don't know the particular day, which family you come from. That entire week, every 24 weeks, for 1 week, a kohen should not drink any wine. This is the view of the Chachamim. What happens if you don't know their family, nor do you know the base of? Then you're not allowed to drink wine forever. Why can't you drink wine forever? Because maybe today is your Zman. Maybe today is his man. And what? We are constantly believing that the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt. And because we believe the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt, the Chacham say a kohen can never drink wine. The first already asked, it says, what about Shabbos and Yom Tov? Shabbos and Yom Tov, so they say, if you remember the end of the third Perek in Sukkah, the Rashi Teisa, they say that, no, there's a Ruchazika Beis HaMikdash, a spiritual Beis HaMikdash that can come down to this world even on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. Anyway, so that's the view of the Chacham. So kohen cannot drink wine at all. It's Rebbe who says, Oyman Ani. The Gemara says, Rebbe says, Oyman, I have the opinion that if you are worried about Shemba Yibana, but where the base will be built, then even if you know the family and you know the base of, a kohen should never be able to drink wine because maybe then things will change. The mishmeres will change. And anybody who is there will already say, please come in, it's pressing, we need you to work straight away. So according to Rebbe, and forever. My answer, what can I do? That the fact that the fact that it's mekulkul today, the fact is that there's no Beis HaMikdash anymore, and all the mishmaras are mixed up, and therefore we can't have kohen and never drinking wine at all. So the fact that mekulkul, the fact that everything is sort of in a way not organized, we're gonna be misakin, and therefore that helps them out. And Abaye says, how can a kohen drink wine today? Only because it follows you Rebbe, which sounds like Meklal Dil Rabban. According to Rabban, Asi kohen cannot drink wine. So according to Rabban, nor should they even take a haircut. Says the Gemara Hasim there. Haina time no. Mahat Taylor Kohenim are allowed to, even if are permitted to drink wine. The reason why we don't want Kohenim to drink wine today is it's only because of a reason that the Chachamim are concerned. The Beis HaMikdash, which is a good thing, the Beis HaMikdash will be built speedily, and therefore we need Kohenim who are able to be or available to do the avodah, so they shouldn't be drinking wine. So it's only a takon Chachamim. The heady by the Beis HaMikdash should be in Kohen or avodah. The leka, and we won't have them because they're intoxicated, under the influence. Numerous are new fine for the same takana. Let's say that kohenim need to take a haircut. If they have long hair, they cannot serve in the Beis HaMikdash. So we answer, take a haircut. Pretty quick, and then they can go in. So if you're under the influence of alcohol, you can take a short cat nap, and that's good enough because it says, Rabacha said, derech mil. If somebody just walks the length of a meal, 18 minutes or 24 minutes, the shena kosher and the slightest nap that one takes, mafigin sayayin, removes the influence of alcohol. So the Gemara, yeah, but that only is if you took a minimal amount of alcohol, merely on a vis, the bare minimum. The lavit malid milun of Ramachim Rabaravu, leishon el shosha kedei vis. If you drank the size of vis, abul yoisim kedei vis. If you drank more than a vis, kol shkein, surely the derech tardosei v'sheina mashkate. If you drank more than a vis in the country, walking makes you can't walk in a straight line, and sleeping makes you much more intoxicated. So therefore, the most question is, no. So how come we don't? To make the same takana when it comes to haircuts. The kohenim, according to Chachamim, should not be taking any haircuts. The Gemara gives, yeah. The Gemara says as follows. The Gemara's answer is when it comes to haircut, take an instant haircut. It takes a couple of minutes, you have a haircut. When it comes to drinking wine, if you're under influence, if you drank a vis, you're right. It's easy to remedy. But if you drank more than a vis, there's no remedy. That's why it is forbidden. Another answer is, Ravashi says, Shetuye yayin, those who are under the influence, the machle avodah. You know why we're stricter with drinking wine? Because if they do work in Beis HaMikdash, it actually desecrates the avodah. Not only they did the wrong thing, but the avodah, whatever they did, is possible. They should not be under Kohenim should not drink today. When it comes to haircut, okay, you're not allowed to come into the Beis HaMikdash. If he did, whatever he did is still kosher. The light machlev and the goes on not kosher. And we're going to ask, According to the who said, I was asked if we equate drinking wine and taking haircuts, and maybe talk if you have long hair, your avodah should be possible. Says the Gemara. Makes lots of questions. It says, they say the following people are put to death. In Korea, if a Korean works in the base of English with long hair, it should be put to death. And Shtui Yain, if he's under the influence, both of them should be put to death. Now, Bishloim Shtui Yain, we know that Shtui Yain, the Chsibit says Yain v'Shecher al Teish. It says the possibility that wine and old wine one should not drink. And then it says after you said, but like to Musu, he said, no, they should die. And the Pirish Brown, how do you know if you here and you've served them as a big you put to death, it's Kishtay, I don't Pirish, quite the two. How do we know that? Because even says, the Risham, Loyigarechu, Pedale Shalechu. On one hand, they shouldn't shave their head, on the other hand, they shouldn't have long hair. And then it says, what possible, Yayin Loy Yishtu. And it says they should not drink wine. They should not drink wine. Is mash to yain. And just like shtu yain, in the misa, just like shtu yain is by misa, put die. Is so we're comparing the two, just like it says you shouldn't have long hair, and says they shouldn't drink wine. Just like if when it comes to long hair, it says that it's forbidden. So too, it says the yayin lo yishtu, nor should you drink wine. This is written next to each other in Yecheskel. So we equate the two, make this equation, hekish. Mashtu yayin misa, they're both death. Umina, once we're equating the two, drinking wine and haircuts, is ma shtuya yain, the mochli avodah, so shtuya yain, their avodah is desecrated, is a prioroi. So too, when it comes to prioroi, the mochli avodah. So prioroi also, we should say, that their avodah is desecrated. We make a hektish, we have a general rule, ain't extra chatzoyin, so maybe we'll go away. And what it says, kasha, it's a problem. Other people are not very kasha rule. That they don't really have a kasha at all, because it's a hekesh in Cheskel, and we only make a part hekesh, not a full hekesh. So this whole thing we learn from Yecheskel about taking haircuts, that that you misa. This thing before Yecheskel came, who told us? Who told us that you chayiv misa for taking a haircut? Because Yecheskel is in the beginning. What about the Torah itself? We didn't know until Yecheskel was by the end of the first base of English revealed us this din. So you want to time it according to you. That's a better question. How the Rav Chizah said that before Moshe Rabbeinu, and we learned in the Torah Moshe Rabbeinu, there's no mention, no indication whatsoever. Yecheskel came along and told us, Ko ben Necher, anybody who is a ben Necher, who does not worship Avodah Zarah, will Arav leave. That he went astray. Or he just wasn't circumcised, and Rashi learns that Al Basar means that it was not even his fault that his brothers died because of bris milah. The big machlek Rishonim tastes Kibobas Rabbi says, "Well, Yabai El Mikdashi L'Shoseini, they should not enter the base of Mikdash to serve me." And it's only revealed to us in Yecheskel that a kohen who was not circumcised, or a kohen who was not outlave, who went astray, shouldn't work in the base of Mikdash. So all the years of the Mishkan and all the Mishkans and the first base of Mikdash they did. Atlabo Yecheskel, I always said it. Only what? It was a tradition. We already knew halacha. We should say that that's forbidden. Came Yecheskel, asked my put it on the pasuk. Is Hochinami so too? Gemara Gemilah. We always knew that he should die. Was Yecheskel asked my came along Yecheskel, and Yecheskel put it on the pasuk. Even though it's very different here, because here and
I guess the Gemara's answer is even stronger. In the case of wine, it's just talking about the form of punishment. So wine is Yimusu, the same thing let the hair grow as Yimusu. It's talking about the form of punishment. The halacha we always do. You kind of will get certain ways of English. Here in the case of Ben Necha, this is actually halacha, a stronger question. How it's a din, a kohen. In these circumstances, it cannot serve the base of English. So I mean, Marlon can say that obviously we knew before. Otherwise, it's a halacha. But when it comes to what the punishment is, the first person will die. So we didn't know before. And I mean, as I made it, and it doesn't really matter if he'll die or not die. If it's a coin anyway couldn't go because it's awesome. So you didn't know that you will die from that. So why? I mean, what's the big deal? Nevertheless, once we've established that
Cheskel said things that we already knew before, he just recorded it, so we can say the same thing for Israel. They knew that as well.
And the Gemara concludes according to this version here, since Cheskel decided to make equations to tell us things that we already knew.
So he only made this equation halfway. He only made the equation to teach us that
you're not allowed to regarding the here about the punishment, but not about whether
it applies other things
as we're trying to learn out from
there. That you could be said that by shtuya yain, if you drank wine and you certainly some English, your avoid is puzzle. That far we don't go when it comes to a haircut. What about the fact that people are tummy? The basic reason built. So I guess we're talking about those carbonas which tumu hutra b'tzibur, the carbon tummy, the carbonas we learned before. That any carbon tzibur, we learned traces said before, carbon tzibur means any carbon is a fixed time. Even a carbon base is a fixed time that everybody does, or representing everybody. That's tumu hutra b'tzibur. And therefore, it doesn't matter that we're all tummy. The base makes you say we can stop bringing the carbonas. It's our private carbonas, the carbonatas, a lot that we have to then become tired first before we can bring them up. And it says further, my custom Yafaskus Roshayim, it says in Pasuk that what the Kohen Gadol should then they should cut their hair. So what does that mean exactly that they should cut the hair? What kind of way should they cut the hair? Says the Gemara. Okay, he said a kohen should cut the hair. What do you mean you cut the hair? Like this haircut of lulianis. My tispaidas lulianis. What exactly is this haircut of lulianis? He can take a haircut all the time. I mean, Shmuel tispaidas if he does something unique kind of a haircut. Take it up and that over Rashi. Roishe sholzeh betzad ikore sholzeh. You take a haircut, not too much hair grew, but that what one hair should touch the other hair. The one hair ends and so the next hair begins. So there's a special kind of haircut, and obviously it took a lot of time. It was all the hairs in between are missing, and you have one hair going to the next shoulder base. What is it? What exactly the haircut of a Kohen Gadol? They took every week. He said to them to go and see, but Ben Elisha, for my son-in-law Ben Elisha, who spent a fortune, not for no reason. Ben Elisha Esma Oisav, he spent a lot of money. I'm learning about the haircut only for one purpose, to show how a Kohen Gadol cut the hair, because he really believed he believed Mashiach is coming straight away, and we built a base of Midrash built. Because there's a big machlek which we built before the Beit Mashiach, and as Mashiach he believed even if the Beit Mikdash will be built after Mashiach comes, he believed Mashiach is coming straight away. So he spent a fortune of money to know exactly how the Kohen Gadol look haircut, so that we can implement it straight away. Hadnalach Kohen Gadol continues tomorrow in Mitzvah Shem.